Stranglehold is the ultimate action game. We've teamed up with John Woo, the ultimate action director, which makes a whole lot of sense to bring his style and flair of action cinematography and put it into video game form.
So all the explosions and breaking worlds around you, all the diving and running and jumping on stuff, all those things you're going to be able to do in the game.
We dove into the water of the next generation platform with both feet. We didn't try to pussyfoot around anything. We just went right in and said, this is what we're going to do.
I just feel like we could do anything. Yeah.
John Woo has pretty much defined an action genre in movies, a style that hadn't been seen before until he came upon the scene.
And he's one of the originators of this kind of slow motion gun ballet where the world's all exploding. You see all the kind of the debris flying in slow motion. It's really quite kind of beautiful when you see the detail.
His movies were so different and so unlike anything that we've seen in America. And John movies are really best described as like bullet ballets. They're just these big, crazy, over-the-top action productions. His most famous films, of course, star Chow Yun-fat, who was just like this awesome action icon.
He is the character from Hard Boiled. So we really wanted to bring that same feel and flavor, that same universe, that same character that he created into the game. So it's really important for us to be authentic, to actually have Chow Yun-fat reprising his role.
We pick up following Tequila a few years later. He's still in the police force, but he's been through some things. And we wanted to really kind of dig in and answer those questions and introduce a little bit more of Tequila's backstory, specifically his family.
Tequila is trying to kind of reassemble his fragmented family. You've got Billy and Tico, his kind of estranged wife and such. You know, they're in Chicago and he's in Hong Kong. They're separated, they're kind of torn apart by, you know, these gang forces. And Tequila's kind of trying to put the pieces back together. And he's also trying to make the people who have torn his family apart pay. So he's using his standard repertoire of Tequila tactics to do that, which involves lots of Berettas.
John Woo's been very involved with the project from day one, from the inception of the story to the script. We've been working with his script writers that he uses on his movies.
John was heavily involved early on in the story in defining all the key elements and the major plot elements and how the story progresses, even adding little things like humor into the storyline to really give it the flavor of what John Woo would put into a movie.
He is basically directing the cinematic aspects of the game. In Stranglehold, the role of Inspector Tequila is played by none other than Chow Yun-fat.
I will handle it my way.
He's been really gracious with everything that we've asked for. We actually went to Hong Kong and scanned him to make sure that we had his body and his face exactly the way he is. He also did voiceover for us for the whole game.
He's brought to life our main character, Tequila. He's made him real.
I hear you did some talking.
He's a consummate professional. He cares about every single line, every single word, every single nuance in that line.
Can I do it one more time?
And he's very willing and easy to take direction. Absolutely wonderful actor.
John Woo is more about the stylistic killing. It's not really about really gratuitous gore or anything like that. So he gave us a lot of ideas about how we could stage the battles to make the visual effect that you get less gory and more dramatic.
The challenge of bringing John Woo's style to a video game is really pulling those elements out of the movies that really make them iconic and make them cool and make you want to watch them over and over again, and then putting that into the control of the player.
Well, what we did at the beginning of this project when we found out we had this license is we actually brought the whole team in every day and watched all of John Woo's movies. And we just sort of, we send out emails to each other and talk about what defined those movies, what were the cool aspects of those movies.
Well, up until now, I don't really think anyone could pull off the John Woo style right, just because, you know, we've had, you know, the old video game systems and PCs just haven't been powerful enough. But now that we really have these new next generation systems, we can really pull off the cinematic elements of the game, which is really important when you're trying to make a game based on John Woo, right? John Woo makes movies, you know, really awesome camera angles, amazing stunts, and we're trying to bring as absolutely much of that into the game as possible.
The standoff is probably one of the greatest icons of Woo's pictures. And if you go to a movie store and you look at John Woo movies on a shelf, they pretty much always all feature guys pointing guns at each other's heads in different directions.
And what we decided to do is we decided to turn it into a mini game. You know, again, we freeze the action as the player comes into a scene, and we show them, hey, there's a guy here, there's a guy here, there's a guy here, and they're all pointing their guns right at you. It's a really intense moment. we really slow time down here. This is where time is probably at its slowest. And each of these guys is like shooting in super slow motion, which gives the player the opportunity to do two things. First off, he's got to dodge, right? So we have our dodge where Tequila's got to do this stylish dodge to avoid the bullet, but then at the same time, he's got to return fire. And it's this cool mini game that we did. Again, really simple. It just uses the 2 analog sticks and the shoot button. But it lets Tequila do these crazy things where he's ambushed by 5 guys at once. And of course he gets out alive because he's Tequila.
Tequila time represents when the hero character, Tequila, who you play in the game, gets a real adrenaline rush, and he's so focused that time slows down for him.
It's almost like how people describe in kind of life-threatening situations how they seem to be able to kind of, move quickly while the world around them moves slowly. It's kind of like this crisis moment where he can kind of take advantage of enemies moving slowly to take them out more accurately, to take out more guys very, very quickly.
But the way we've implemented it has made it almost seamless to the player, so he doesn't even have to manage it if he doesn't want to. Whenever you're doing one of these cool interactions like running on a banister or diving through the world, if there's enemies lined up in your reticle, it'll automatically turn into Tequila time for you.
It gives the player an advantage in targeting when there's many, many enemies around him.
Tequila time makes you powerful. It makes you more powerful than the enemies in situations. But because it makes you more powerful, it's a limited resource, so you can't use it continuously through the whole game. So if you abuse it, you're going to run out and you're not going to have enough to maybe get to that next really hard situation.
In the same way that Tequila time is this kind of hyper-focused state, the sound kind of reflects that a little bit.
We wanted to pull away all the sounds of that clutter our universe, the cacophony that ensues from massive destructibility and the fact that you're being attacked by so many enemies at any given time.
Things that we tend to rise to the surface are the bullet zips and whizzes. So you'll hear a lot more kind of as bullets fly past you, tink, hit a surface behind you. It really gives a player a sense of these microscopic moments around them and where they are, because in Dolby Digital surround sound, for example, the player's fairly acutely aware, especially in slow time because bullets can be seen moving past them, where those things are, and those are very relevant to the player's actions because they might choose to dive out the way if a character's coming out with a machine gun and things like that.
Tequila time recharges slowly all the time, so you don't need to do anything, you don't collect anything to recharge your Tequila time. It's more representative of the fact that Tequila time is effectively your character really focusing hard, so we couldn't let you play the whole game like that. He's got to kind of recuperate and then focus from moment to moment when it's important.
The Tequila bombs are a gameplay mechanic that allow us to really break out of the third-person action constraints and take over the cinematic feel of the game while taking out bad guys in a unique way. So one of the coolest ones is called the spin attack, where Tequila pulls out his guns and he goes into that classic 360-degree spin that's famous in John Woo movies, wasting every guy in the room. If there's 4 guys, if there's 14 guys, he's going to take them all out.
Precision aim is another one of those moments that we saw in the films. We're like, okay, we got to do that. There's actually several scenes where Tequila will just take one really important shot. It's like the shot that really, really matters.
But what looks really cool is when you fire the bullet. Because then we have the sequence of the bullet flying through the world, and as the bullet flies through the world and the camera's following it, it passes through any breakable objects, so the bullet's flying forward. And then it strikes the enemy, and we have these really cool, dynamic cinematic cutscenes. It really creates these emergent moments, and you don't see the same thing happening twice in a row, and it's completely user-created.
Barrage is another tequila bomb, and this allows you to do very focused attacks. So if you have a bunch of guys spawning out of the doors in the hallway in front of you, all running at you at once, it allows this really rapid burst of fire for a limited time for you to just destroy everything in your path.
The Tequila Bomb Meter is a really cool device that the design team came up with to encourage the player to play in a way that's consistent with John Woo's direction style. For example, if the player jumps on a banister and in slow motion, wastes 2 or 3 guys as he's going down the staircase, he's going to get tequila meter points, and that's going to fill up. When that thing fills up completely, then he can do a tequila bomb and waste more guys. So it's kind of this reinforcing mechanism to encourage players to not just run and shoot guys like in most games, to really use the world for dynamic interactions, to really think about creative ways to take out the bad guys and then be rewarded for that.
Massive destructibility is this just like really over-the-top cool technology that we've created for Stranglehold. It's completely proprietary to the game.
We have put a lot of effort and technology and art resources into making sure everything in our environments has a massive D treatment and is destroyable.
It's not like everything explodes when you hit it. You just get this really satisfying destruction of the environment in a way that really makes you feel like a gun battle is taking place in the room.
Because we knew we wanted to make a game that takes advantage of destruction, the choices of not only the location that I had to choose from the start, but also the kind of object that would be in this location was extremely important.
It's not like every object has got 1 or 2 break patterns that they follow. It's if you shoot a pillar, then wherever the bullet hits, a chunk of plaster is going to pop out at that point.
One of the other things we call Woo Glue. It's kind of our name for a technology that allows you to not only locally destroy an area, but then have the physics take over. So if you have a giant statue, you can shoot out the 1 foot and cause it to fall over on a guy from the other foot. Woo Glue ties massive D and physics together to give you a whole new kind of world interaction, a new way to take out guys.
You create this path of destruction that stays the whole game.
So our goal with Massive D became really to turn into gameplay.
So it's not just we're blowing pieces off stuff. The player can actually choose where to shoot weak points within a structure to cause it to become unstable from a balance perspective. And that will then fall into the world and it would crush enemies if they were nearby. But once it does fall into the world, it also becomes a piece of cover.
The Unreal 3 engine has been really great to use on the game side. It's given the artists a really incredible tool set to create some amazing visuals.
And we were able to very early on start generating art assets and getting a feel for next generation technology without having to wait for the substantial ramp-up time that would be associated with either a homegrown engine or licensing some of the other middleware out there.
We've gone into that original engine and ripped out the whole physics system and put Havoc in, which we used on PsyOps.
But then we've built layers and layers of our own technology on top of that. And other parts we've developed brand new for Stranglehold.
We're not doing all metal and concrete surfaces. These are all skin and bones, These people are all covered in cloth, and it's not necessarily what the Unreal Engine likes, but we make it like it. We make it work for the game, and it's incredible.
When you watch someone playing the game, no one really plays the game the same way, and the game lets them play the game the way they want to play the game.
If you shoot for the game to be a million gazillion times better than any other game on the market, when it finally comes out and it's 100 times better, you could live with that.